Meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. and I'd like to recognize the superintendent for a series of awards and presentations. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a number of celebrations. I feel like we've been celebrating all week with graduations, but I will turn it over to Ms. Maddox, who will define the order in which we're going to go in and acknowledge our presentations this evening.
Okay, well, we are going to go in the order that is on the agenda. So we don't cause any confusion. So we will start right off with our Casual for a Cause presentation. For those of you who are not familiar with Casual for a Cause, we have a Casual for a Cause calendar with different community organizations on it. And each month we have a specific community organization that is chosen for that month. And our students and our teachers and our staff members, in exchange for a donation to that organization, they get a dress down day. So last month, we raised funds for the Hibiscus Children's Center. And tonight we have a few people from the Hibiscus Children's Center here with us. I'm going to introduce Mr. Matt Markley, the CEO, if you would please come forward. And Mr. Markley, now I made him promise me that he would not look at the amount on the envelope, and I think that they have it hidden from him because he had to have the shock factor. Our students, teachers, and you looked?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't look.
Our students, teachers, and staff members raised $2,214.45 for the Hibiscus Children's Center. And this is yours to keep. And if you'd like to say a few words, I will make sure that I get a nice photo front and center for you all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, I want to thank everyone here. Thank the board members of the Board of Education. I think this Casual for a Cause Day is an awesome thing. Several years ago, I was elected to the Board of Education where I was living in Ohio. And I served for 8 years on the Board of Education. And when I left, I said, that is the last Board of Education meeting I will ever attend. Well, lo and behold, here I am tonight. But it's awesome here tonight because this Casual for a Cause, $2,000 doesn't sound like a lot to you folks, but we raise $3 million a year for Hibiscus. And what Hibiscus does is if a child is removed from his or her home tonight because of abuse or neglect, and no family or friend is there to take that child in, the state of Florida will call an organization like Hibiscus Children's Center. And guess what? We answer. We have in our care 50 to 60 kids who have been removed from their homes because of allegations of abuse or neglect every single day. We don't close 365 days a year. We don't close for holidays, hurricanes, nothing. So kids are in our care. Kids in the Indian River County School District are in our care. Kids from all over the state of Florida, frankly, are in our care. Mostly from the Treasure Coast, but we are a child welfare organization first and foremost, and we do everything for that child when they're in our care that you all would do for your children or grandchildren. And so this is awesome. Thank you. I wish you could have Casual for a Cause every day. I'd be happy to come back and speak if it ever happened, but thank you so much. Thanks for allowing me to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Reduce the size. It's like a mini big check.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, tonight we have a special student athletics recognition for our state finalists in winter sports. And I think we have a few spring sports trickled in there that were a little late to the end of the spring. But first, I am going to ask for the athletic director from Sebastian River High School, Coach Terry, to come on up, please. And she is going to recognize her athletes.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here once again and recognizing these outstanding young athletes and the parents and coaches that put in the work every single day that support these young children. Our first group that we have is our boys wrestling team. It is coached by Coach Tom Mall. If they would come forward. Caden Wheeler and Nico Huff were both state qualifiers.
And if you guys would just stay up here so we can get a group photo at the very end, okay?
Our next group is our girls weightlifting, and Coach Emily Secoy, and she has Vanessa Hernandez, who is a state placer, and Amonte Johnson, who is a state qualifier. And our last but not least is the heartbeat of the school, is our girls cheerleading, who were national qualifiers this year, and there's a lot of them. And they're coached by Celeste Howder.
You should have a cheer.
Okay, yes, everybody shift back to the left.
Even squatted down, okay?
There you go, right there, right there. All right. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Go Sharks. Okay, do we have Coach Jankowski here yet? Not quite yet? Okay, let's see. I see a couple of other coaches that we do have. Let's recognize our boys wrestling team, boys, led by Coach Ken. If you would please come up when your name is called. Jonathan Roberts, David Benjamin, Cooper Patton, and Jaquan Jean. Do we have any of our boys wrestling team here?
They're on vacation.
Okay.
They graduated on
Vero Beach High School girls weightlifting. No? Okay. All right, well, I'm just going to recognize you then, Coach Wood. Coach Bird, why don't you come on up and recognize your unified sports team?
Coach Bird and I will not miss out on an opportunity to speak in front of a microphone, so thank you. Go ahead.
All right. We've been fortunate enough. This year was a great year for unified sports. So we're going to recognize 3 teams together today. We don't have everybody here. We got a last minute notice, and maybe those other teams didn't get the notice. But and a lot of our students also work, have jobs, or have babysitting duties. But unified sports is a branch of the Special Olympics, and what it does, it takes students with disabilities and without disabilities, and we compete against each other and other teams across the state of Florida, other high school teams. So to be qualified for unified sports, you got to have either a disability, or you're an athlete, or a partner is a student without disabilities. And what our flag football team, for example, they have 5 people on the field at one time. 3 are considered athletes, 2 are considered partners. So when we competed in the state championship, we got to play in Raymond James, home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we got to fire those cannons off a few times as we went to state championship. So I'm going to go ahead and ask all my unified athletes and partners to come on up and stand in front of our board members, please.
So we were fortunate enough this year. This is our second year we've won the state championship in flag football. Our girls won the girls track meet in the 4x4 relay, and they came in second in the 4x1. The boys won the 4x1 and the 4x4 relay for the state championship first time. Our basketball team finished second in the state. And flag football back-to-back state champions. So we're very proud of our students and our student athletes, and thank you very much for having us. Appreciate it.
Here they come. Wait a minute. Pictures. Hold for moms.
Okay, one of our favorite presentations. We have our extracurricular student spotlight. And we are recognizing a very talented student from Vero Beach High School tonight. And I would like to ask her teacher, Miss Amy Kuntz, Vero Beach High School art teacher, to please come to the podium.
So the student being recognized tonight is Jessica Jablonski. She's a senior, and you can see her art displayed over there. She is an extraordinary student and has many academic accomplishments, including she's a top 10 senior scholar for her graduating class. She won an art scholarship with the Vero Art Club. Her work is displayed in the Vero Beach Museum of Art, and she's published. She illustrated a poem for Joelle Mitchell, a local author who has published several volumes of poetry. But more so than her academic accomplishments is the intangibility of what she's accomplished these last 2 years. She started with me as a little baby sophomore, and now as a woman going to Florida Southern College, majoring in art. She has shown more growth than most students I have ever taught in the compassion and kindness that she shows to herself and not just others, and the confidence in her work and the ability to advocate for herself and to question herself and her process and have confidence in that. And that inspires me every day. And I encourage you to ask yourself, as teachers and school leaders and community members, how can we show our kids and our students how to be kind, not just to others, but to ourselves? She's made a difference in my life, and I know she will continue to do so for others. So please join me in congratulating our Spotlight senior, Jessica Jablonski. Come on up.
She's like, with my camera.
Thank you. For our next presentation, we have our safety and security staff recognition. And I would like to ask Mr. Eric Seymour to please come up and Mr. John Teskey to introduce our spotlight.
Okay, this is always fun. And this guy, I gotta say, he's definitely a keeper. What we do know about him, I actually, you know, we get a lot of feedback from our parents. They let us know what's going on, and a lot of times we have activity, unwanted sometimes, but they tell us exactly what's going on, who was there, what happened, what security monitors were there. One day, this one parent came by and said, you know, I think it was a little fight, a little skirmish. We have those. She said, yeah, it was a pretty big fight over there today. I said, was it any security monitors there? She said, yes, it was. She said it was a tall, cute guy. I said, ma'am, no, I don't work there. I'm sorry. But this young man, he's one of the top. I mean, he does a great job. He's responsible. You can see him anytime you roll up on that campus. And this is what it takes. It's an all hands on deck approach to deal with the problems that we have in our community, but yet secure our campuses. And he's definitely the guy for us, and we are so appreciative of his efforts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Seymour. I'm going to keep my talk brief because what can we say about Team Jay-Z back there? He's got his own T-shirts. He's got his own fan club. I'm going to thank you publicly for your retirement and your service to the New York Police Department, John. So I know the country and the community appreciate everything you did up in New York and what you're doing here for us. So with that said, I'm going to ask the leader of the fan club, Mr. Taylor, to come up here and tell us about Team Jay-Z.
All right, first of all, it's the Jay-Z squad, not Team Jay-Z, Jay-Z squad. So John came to us, and I tell you, one of the things about him is he really has a sixth sense of really knowing as soon as somebody walks into a gate of the school, like he's right there. I don't know how he does it. He puts about 15 miles a day walking around our campus, checking bathrooms, gates, everything, all around the perimeter. But the number one thing I can say about John is his relationships with students. Oftentimes you see him walking around high-fiving, doing knuckles with kids. Really, they go to him if they need to talk to somebody. So he's really a positive role model amongst our students. So that's the best thing I can say about John and what he adds to Storm Grove Middle School. So.
Let's get the whole squad up here. Eric, can you squat down a little bit? I gotta get on my toes.
So we have two videos for you tonight that we've been holding on to, and our first one, it's been a long time coming. This is our video of Liz Geoffrey from Indian River Academy. She was selected as an Employee of the Year for our district, and then she was selected as our district's Employee of the Year finalist, and she moved on to the state level to be selected as one of the 5 state finalists for Employee of the Year. So we put a little video together kind of documenting her journey on to state. We hope you enjoy.
All right, Miss Liz, come over here. Today, we found out she's one of the 5 finalists for the entire state of Florida. So we're here to say you are absolutely outstanding. Thank you for all you do. You're going to go out and represent the school district of Indian River County and our community, and I think you're the odds-on favorite to win.
Now, we recognized Liz a couple months ago when we went through this process. So, Liz, if you're watching from home tonight, hello, we love you and congratulations. So, our next video is our Partner with a Principal video. Now, this is a pilot program that was started this year. It involved community members who chose to become principal for a day to experience a day in the life of a principal in our public school system. We created a video documentary to share their experiences with you, and I believe we actually have Mayor Catuño in the audience. Yes? This brave soul was one of the principals for a day, and I think you will see his experience in this video, so enjoy.
I was invited here today to be the principal for the day at Gifford Middle School. where I attended. I think I was here in 88 or 89. I certainly have seen that things have changed, and I think they've probably changed for the better. They're doing great work here. Been working really hard so that the kids coming through can have a really good chance when they get to high school to be successful. Everything's been very orderly, and I've enjoyed it very much.
I'm here at Citrus Elementary School, which has been really an enlightening and fun experience. From the beginning of greeting students as they come in, then I had the privilege of meeting a lot of the teachers and resource people who are involved in this school. I've been visiting some of the classes. It was fun to talk to the students, engage with them, and hear their questions.
My morning here at the Wabasso School shadowing Mr. Colston was a great experience. It was truly just eye-opening to see the behind the scenes of what goes on in the day-to-day school and things that we don't really think about. The care and dedication that our principals have to their school and to their community.
So my morning here at Vero Beach Elementary so far has been wonderful. We had a chance to see a huddle of some teachers that were organizing and building their lesson plans, and I was really impressed by the level of collaboration and communication that I was witnessing all day. How the teachers and staff all really support each other. And then we had a chance to kind of walk around to a few different classrooms, and I'm really impressed with what Moonshot is doing here and the Learning Alliance and how they're infusing art and music and dance into reading and learning apprehension. So just really impressed.
Well, I'd say the experience was just overall amazing. Really started in the car drop-off line to see the principal and the enthusiasm and knowing every kid and greeting every kid. I mean, what a positive, welcoming experience as you first came to campus. It kind of set the attitude for my visit, and I think it probably set the attitude for the kids for the day.
My experience today at Sebastian River Elementary School has been eye-opening. I think that there are so many benefits to this program. Too few people know what an amazing district level staff we have, what amazing schools we have. There are too few people who know how awesome our district really is. You don't even have to spend 5 minutes in a school, let alone an elementary school. 30 seconds walking in and watching the staff and the kids come into school, and you know that amazing things are happening.
I think it helps me to understand how difficult it is. It's not just a job where teachers come to work. It's a difficult job. You keep all these parts, moving parts in order. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it.
I really thought it was a great opportunity to understand our community a little bit better. And this just gives me a different perspective on what goes on in the day-to-day behind the scenes that I might not normally see or know about.
You have to come here and understand what these teachers are doing, the efforts and time that they're putting into our children. Children are our most important asset. Our teachers, our educators, our administrators, all these people are working to make sure that our children become better citizens, and therefore they become better people, not only for the community, but for themselves. And that, to me, is very important.
To see the teachers in action, to see the interface with students, to see the enthusiasm for learning with the students, I thought was just terrific.
I'm a dad of 2 young boys, so the chance to come in and kind of get a little early exposure to the type of environment my boys will be in here in a couple of years was eye-opening, and I feel a sense of relief and a lot of optimism that I know they're going to be in the best hands.
If everyone in the community could partner with a principal or a teacher, I just think it's transformative. I don't know how else to say it. It's transformative.
And a huge shout out to Cindy Emerson and her team for initiating this program. And they're right over here. Well, 2 of them are. Missing 1. And it is a pilot program, which means we hope to be welcoming more community members into our school next year. It was a really awesome experience for everyone. So that concludes presentations. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I do have one more. So I'm going to come stand over. Pam, come over here. Come on. So Pam is beginning the next chapter in her life and moving away from the school district of Indian River County, which is a huge loss for us. So I just wanted to take the time and thank her for all of her hard work, her ongoing commitment, the unwavering support that you gave me, that you gave these children. The system that you have helped create in the school district will go on for years and years and years. So I cannot thank you enough for all of your contributions, all of your hard work, and everything that you poured into the school system. And I know our paths will cross again in the very, very near future, but our loss is someone else's gain, and cannot thank you enough for all of your contributions. So where's it at? Here it is. So here you go. Did you write a little speech? Look at that. You want to say something?
Don't do that, Heather. Thank you so much. 6 years ago, I embarked on a journey, and I remember where I sat over there with my husband and my children, not knowing what to expect, but very grateful for the opportunity that I was given to serve the school district of Indian River County. Student first has always been my priority. And every decision that I made as a teacher, as an administrator, as a district level administrator, has been focused on students. I just want to say thank you so much. I've grown so much over the past 6 years. Some board members I started out with, some have gone on, but I've learned a lot. I've worked with many different staff here throughout my tenure here. And I will truly say that, I can truly say that the staff here, they're talented, they're always willing to help, and I know that they're focused on student achievement as well as our mission. And I just want to say I would not be what I am without my mother. I come from a single parent environment, but my mother has had God as her priority, and I have stayed focused on that as this is my passion, and I will continue to excel in this area until I retire. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to serve you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
1 minute to spare, Madam Chair.
Okay, before we close, board members, any comments before we take a break?
Yeah,
Ms. Rosario?
I'd like to just comment for Pam. We have definitely come a long way, and I admire your work. We have grown together, I think, certainly in my tenure here as a school board member, and it has been a pleasure working with you, more than just a pleasure, it has been a blessing. And I hope to continue to remain in contact with you. I do wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I have no doubt that they will be wonderful. There will be wonderful years still to come for you and for your family. And so I just wish you all the best.
Thank you. Ms. Berenborg?
Sure. I'd like to say best wishes. You know, we worked on our masters together. We took our principal's exam together, spent hours in the hotel room cramming. I appreciate the fact that I worked with you in St. Lucie and I worked with you here. And I wish you the best, and I wish you and your family the best. And congratulations on everything you've done. Thank you.
Okay. We had the pleasure of working together for 1 year. And as I said in that email, it was a joy with you and Miss Basura. You are definitely one of the hardest workers I've ever known. And even when you would disagree or we would disagree, we always came together in a collaborative manner to make sure, okay, we need to do this and this is how we're going to do it. Had some tough positions, and in education day, usually things aren't taken off your plate. They're usually put on. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know you won't miss my 7 a.m. calls when you were coming into work. But I love you and good luck.
I'm just going to say thank you for all your hard work. I know I just got to meet you over the last few months, but every board brief we've had together was a delight. You're always on point. You knew all the details, everything surrounding it, and your hard work will be missed. You're so good at your job, so thank you.
And the best thing I can say is ditto. Ditto, 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 ditto. You've done a terrific job. And dealing with most of my interaction has been on the policies, of which there are too many to count. And I mean, you're terrific. So we're going to miss you, and good luck.
All right, so this concludes the awards and presentation. The time is 6:02 p.m. Our business meeting will begin at 6:07. Thank you. Board business meeting at the Joe N. Idlet Jr. TEC. The meeting will come to order. Today is Monday, May 22nd, 2023, and the time is 6:07 p.m. The chair asks that out of respect to everyone, please silence all electronic devices. Will you please stand for the pledge led by the Vero Beach High School ROTC?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vero Beach High School. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the adoption of the orders of the day.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I do have two items that I would like to request that we move.
Okay.
Well, first I'd like to pull item 8B, which is the MOA for SDIRC and the health insurance.
Right.
And then I'd like to pull 7A, which is donations and grants, and 7F, which is the approval of the naming for the Jimmy Graves property. And I'd like to present those, if I could, following the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Moore. Board members, are there any items you wish to move from consent agenda to action? Please wait to be recognized, and please state the title and the number, please. Ms. Rosario?
Yeah, I just have a point of clarity for the superintendent. The item 7F, if you move it to superintendent's presentation, it won't receive a vote. It needs an action. So I would recommend moving that to action item, not just during superintendent presentation.
So I said immediately following my presentation, my intent is to present these items for action.
For action. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, that's just clarity on that one. That's going onto the action agenda for purposes of the minutes.
All right, thank you. Board members, anyone else from consent to action?
I still have more. I still have two more.
Okay, I didn't realize.
Another one, 9B, I'd like to move to action. And I have a point of clarification for our minutes that need to be changed or edited. So the minutes from, let me pull that up, from April 24th do not indicate that we did not vote on policies, on Neola policies, volume 23, number 2. It says that they were pulled from consent to action, which was indeed correct, but we didn't actually vote on it. So the minutes just need to reflect that those policies were just not voted on that day. So I guess that, I don't know how you, is that something that I can just share with Ms. Poisel and then have the minutes come back to us at our next meeting? How does that work?
I'm just going to ask Ms. Shattuck for a verdict on that.
Thank you. Through the chair. So this is on your consent agenda. So you could pull the approval of the 4/24/2023 business meeting minutes to action. And then during action, you could make a motion to amend them.
Okay.
All right, So we have April 24th. And what item number was that, Ms. Rosario?
Hold on.
9B.
Because I did ask for the title and the number,
That would
please.
be 5B.
Okay.
So 5B, approval of the 424 business meeting minutes. That would be moved to action.
And you also had 9B?
And I also had 9B,
What's the
which was
title?
the request to set public hearing date 7/24 of Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2, and special update.
Thank you. Any other board member from consent to action? Okay, anyone for discussion? And I would like to add on discussion, Dr. Moore and I did discuss this with you, just to talk about graduation a little bit on discussion. Good things happen at graduation, just a few things I wanted to add there. Okay, just to double check, the chair will read the items moved consent to action. The first one was 9B by Ms. Rosario, and then 5B by Ms. Rosario. Dr. Moore, you have moved 2 items right after the superintendent's report. 7A and 7F is now going to be a different one, correct?
Correct.
And you removed 8B.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, double check on that. All right, the chair now calls for a proper motion to adopt the orders of the day.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the orders of the day by Ms. Berenborg, and then seconded by Mr. Barefoot. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the vote is 5-0. Thank you very much.
I'd like to just add as amended.
As amended, okay. And we'll do that later on the consent agenda. All right. So we now go into the report from the superintendent with your added items.
Thank you. I'll start with the report, and this is kind of a different report as we're going to acknowledge some of the items that are being approved today, both the items that I pulled as well as some other items that will ultimately initiate what has been a long time coming, and that is beginning construction on Phase 1 at the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex. And as you know, Board, over almost 2 years ago, we accepted a challenge. We accepted a donation for land and begin the process of raising non-public dollars to revitalize the community complex. And it was a major undertaking. It was something I thought was going to be relatively straightforward, but a whole lot of work has gone into this. So I couldn't be any more excited for where we are today. The items that are going to be approved will begin the mapping and creation of Phase 1. The playground materials or resources are going to begin to be purchased. We will begin to draw the plans for the entire site. So all exciting, and all because individuals stepped up and made contributions. So before I present those 2 items, I'd like for Ms. Emerson to acknowledge and highlight some of our great members in our community who have stood up in an absolute tremendous way.
All right, so as Dr. Moore mentioned, back in January 26, 2021, the Jimmy Graves Foundation donated the 16th Street fields to the School District of Indian River County. We have been working with stakeholders across Indian River to help develop the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex to serve our local families through the development of this project. And today I am happy to share that we are very close to finalizing Phase 1 of the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex, and it really couldn't have been done without the support of very strategic partners in the community. So first, I would love to call up the City of Vero Beach Mayor Coutinho, please come on up. Ray Neville.
Oh, can we clap as they come?
You can clap. Tracy Zudans. John Carroll. And John Turner, the city attorney. As they come up, I just want to say that this certificate is going to be presented to the City of Vero Beach in sincere appreciation for their exceptional contribution of $1 million towards Phase 1 of the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex. The district has heartfelt gratitude for the City of Vero Beach's generous support which is going to greatly impact the development of the Bill Wilson track and field, as well as the first inclusive playground in Indian River County. As founding funders, the City of Vero Beach's dedication and commitment to fostering an inclusive and vibrant community is truly commendable. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Guys, everybody.
Thank you.
Next, I would love to call up the Richardson family. We have Sandy and George Kale here, Lisa Kale, Tom Tierney, and son Gavin, come on up. Nancy and John Luther, Kristen Luther Lockwood, and children Alice Grace, Emma, and Will. And Susan Hopkins is out of town, but I wanted to recognize her as well. We are going to present the Richardson family a certificate in deep appreciation for their extraordinary contribution of $300,000 as a founding funder of the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex. This one has a lot of history to it, and I just want to share it really quickly. The school district of Indian River County really wants to recognize Sandy, Nancy, and Susan Richardson, as well as their parents, Dan and Marge Richardson, who were integral to the project to revitalize the stadium in the mid-1960s. This endeavor holds special significance for the sisters as a continuation of their parents' legacy. Dedicated to benefiting the entire community, Dan Richardson, as the chairman of the school board during the 1960s, and Sandy, Nancy, and Susan, all proud graduates of Vero Beach High School, along with their children and grandchildren, who've also attended the same alma mater and actively participated in soccer and lacrosse, have experienced firsthand the benefits that a new track and field will bring. This certificate serves as a lasting testament to our profound appreciation to the Richardson's family unwavering commitment to education, athletics, and community development. Thank you so much. This really has been such a beautiful experience for the district, and I've grown to build so many friendships as a result of going out and talking with the community. And one that I just really value is for our next presentation with the LJ Foundation. So I'd like to call up Laika Gerwin Moretta and the Wilson family, please. This certificate is awarded to the LJ Foundation in heartfelt appreciation for their invaluable pledge of $500,000. As a founding funder of the Bill Wilson Track and Field, at the Jimmy Graves Sports and Community Complex. The school district extends its deepest gratitudes to the LJ Foundation for their generosity, continued generosity, which will positively impact students and the community. The LJ Foundation's visionary support exemplifies the spirit of collaboration and investment in the future, creating opportunities for athletic excellence, personal growth, and community engagement. This certificate lasts as a lasting symbol of our enduring appreciation of the LJ Foundation's commitment to education, athletics, and community development. And I have one more founding funder. They couldn't make it tonight, but I really wanted to make sure we still acknowledge them. This certificate will be presented to Paul Becker with heartfelt gratitude for a contribution of $50,000 this year and an additional $50,000 next year. And we want to acknowledge his generous support and playing a pivotal role in advancing this transformative endeavor. Mr. Becker's dedication to the project and his commitment to the betterment of our community is truly commendable. And so just with this private-public partnership, we've been able to bring in $1.9 million into the school district, and we really are very excited about what that will mean as we launch a public campaign to continue fundraising for this project. If you're interested in supporting the project, please email me directly. I promise you I will get back to you within 15 minutes. Yeah. I really am that quick. But just I want to once again say thank you so much to everyone for the contributions, and it really is going to make such an impact on Vero Beach and Indian River County. Thank you.
Thank you. So just before we conclude presentations, I want to acknowledge Ms. Emerson. When I approached her about leading this body of work, she literally looked at me like I was crazy, but quickly adjusted and has really led a charge, and her hard work, her commitment, innovative thinking has really will allow us to put a shovel in the ground and make this a reality for our community. So thank you so much.
I would just like to add one thing before any other board member. You probably know this, but after the spring game on Thursday of this week, Vero Beach High School, the game starts at 6 p.m. We will then have a last lap walk on the Bill Wilson track, probably around 7:30, quarter to 8. And for a minute, Yolanda and Catherine, would you please stand? Okay. As most of you know, and you can see by the generosity here in the room, Coach Wilson has been recognized for hundreds of things, but he won 2 state championships. And any of you who knew this man knew that everything he did was from his heart. And I have the pleasure of being part of the Bill and Billy Wilson Foundation, looking at scholarships for our students. And both Coach and Mr. Wilson continue to give along with their family members. So I'd just like to recognize them and give them a round of applause. Any other board member before we go to citizen input?
Oh, but we have two policies.
I'm sorry.
So that concludes the presentation, and Madam Chair, before I present the 2 items that we move to action, I wanted to ensure that we read into the record just a few things. So as you know, we've been discussing policy 7250, which is a policy that really deals with naming of facilities. And both of these items that I pulled deal with slight name changes to our facilities. So as this policy includes naming and renaming for new and existing facilities, it also provides a provision for exceptional circumstances in which the board may name a facility with a supermajority vote. As a result, I'd like to provide assurances to the board in working with the requirements of this policy, the naming of the facility with a majority vote. So by simply saying that, I just want to acknowledge that policy, A, because it's a policy, and B, we were talking about it literally 2 weeks ago, right, to ensure that it is on the record that you have the authority to do this and you're not violating any policy in doing so. And with that, I can present one item at a time, if you'd like, Madam Chair.
Yes, if you don't mind, that would be great.
Okay. So the first item is 7A, which is donation and grants. It is the acceptance of all the donations and grants for this period, for this month. That is the item. 7A.
Board members, any discussion on this item?
Hearing none, second.
Any motion?
I move that.
Call the question.
Call the question.
Okay. Question has been called. Any discussion?
Wait, you need a second.
Second.
You need a
Okay,
second.
second.
And then we go into.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion?
I have, I would like to talk to this
Sure,
item.
go ahead.
Not anything extremely controversial. Dr. Moore, thank you so much for bringing this forward. 2 weeks ago, when we discussed this policy, we discussed it with some changes or proposed changes to it. But today, what Dr. Moore is bringing before you in the policy is not the one with obviously the changes, because that hasn't been adopted yet. These are what is currently within the current policy. So I just want to make that clear that right now, it's just as is. It's not with the edits or the suggestions for naming or renaming in the future. And yes, this policy does include a provision, some procedures in there to have a name selection team. And yes, there are exceptionalities to this, or there's an exception clause in here that allows the board to vote on this for a supermajority. And in this particular case, I'm happy to support it.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we would need a motion. Please
I'll make a
state the
motion. Oh.
Mr. Barefoot, go ahead.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Posca. Any discussion again? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Carries 5-0. Dr. Moore.
Item 7F, which is before the board now, is the approval of the slight modification to the naming within the agreement the board already accepted.
Anything else you want to add to that? No.
That's it.
Okay.
I'd like to call the question.
Call the question.
Second.
Okay, in a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms.
I'd just
Barefoot.
like to say thank you for the generosity of this community, and that everybody will benefit from it. So we thank you for that, and I thank you for the naming after a child who represented Vero Beach Wells.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to see if we had a motion.
We had a
Call the
motion.
question, he means.
You meant motion? Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, vote carries 5-0. Thank you very much. That's it, Dr. Moore?
Yes, ma'am, that concludes my items. Thank you for allowing me to pull them to action, as well as my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we go into citizen input, and I'm going to read the guidelines, and then we'll be calling you up probably 2 at a time. Sorry, I lost my place.
It's okay. Don't rush. You got plenty of time. This gives people a chance to leave, too.
9B, I'm sorry. Oh, 5B is the... That is...
All right, thank you. Guidelines for citizen input. Each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. Persons will be recognized in the order in which requests were received. The time shall start when the speaker is at the podium, and the school board attorney will be the official timekeeper. As you will see, the time clock is visible to your left on the dais. You will hear a beep at the end of your 3 minutes. Person may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of the business meeting during citizen input as indicated on the orders of the business, and for up to 3 minutes to each action agenda item during the action agenda and each board member discussion item as indicated in the order of business. If a consent item is moved to an action item when you come up to the podium, you may speak at that time or defer to speak during the presentation of the action item. People may only speak once about any given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer. Only the individual submitting a speaker's form is allowed to address the board. Time may not be yielded to other speakers. During the meeting, please refrain from clapping or outbursts of any sort so that we can proceed with dignity and with decorum by not infringing on any individual's First Amendment rights. I need to remind everyone to direct all comments to the chairman, not to individual board members or to the superintendent. Board members may or may not address any citizen input statements at the end of all the citizen input comments. As board members listen to citizens without interruption, citizens are asked to give board members the same respect. As per Florida Statute 1001-372, subsection 3, The presiding officer of any district school board may order the removal from a public meeting held by the district school board of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. I'll be calling you up two at a time. The first person will be called to the podium to speak, and the second person will be in line to speak. And if you have any information to give to board members or the superintendent, please do so through Ms. Poisel, our executive assistant at this meeting. Okay, our first speaker is Anthony Stewart, followed by Maureen Weisberg. Welcome, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to discuss the repeal of the racial and equity policy. I haven't been here in a while, so do I get a chance to use all the time that I missed?
No, sorry.
Dr. Moore, I pull up Miami-Dade's non-discrimination policy, and I want to read the first sentence. It says the School Board of Miami-Dade, Florida, adheres to the policy of non-discrimination in employment and educational programs, activities, programs, and activity receiving federal financial assistance from the Department of Education, and strives affirmatively to provide equal opportunity for all as required. Now, for you to even contemplate repealing a federal order while you are still under a federal court order and has not considered where this repealing process come from, which I also have establishing the President's Advisory of 1776, signed by Donald Trump on November 2nd, 2020, 2 months before he left office. I also have the one 13985 signed by President Johnson on 2021, the same day he was inaugurated. And he signed it. Then he signed another on February 16, 2023. There's no way you can take the word equity out of any type of documentation while you're under federal desegregation order. You don't seem to have a problem being unfair anyway, because the majority of the black administrators that was here 2 years ago are not here now. I don't understand why we even need to go through this process. We have a way, somehow a way, of getting rid of black administrators in this county. And I'm speaking from 73 years of living here. And I've seen and observed what goes on here. We've had 2 Moms for Liberty on the school board, making decisions about the desegregation order. Now that should never have been. They should have recused themselves, and there has to be something done here now to counter this madness that you all are doing. It's a shame for the living God. And some of you all got the nerve enough to call yourself Christians. It's sad. You are really pathetic if you would allow this to go on and even consider this garbage about repealing and taking the words out. You can't do that now. I'm going to deal with the Department of Justice about this. I've already dealt with the court, with Judge Williams on this same matter. But I will call in the Department of Justice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
And enjoy
Stewart.
the rest of your day.
Thank you. Maureen Weisberg, and then David Flint.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Weisberg, president of the CWA Local 3180. This evening, I would like to speak regarding the changes that are happening in Indian River County. 1 year ago, we had a nurse who talked about being a 6th-generation resident of Indian River County, and that she had to move because she is being priced out of living in this beautiful district. Tonight, I also can no longer afford to live here because of the escalating cost of rent. This makes me the 3rd generation leaving this area. Most of our CWA staff are 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation who want to stay here and raise their children. Sadly, this reality is fading. Our costs for electricity, bills, groceries, taxes, rental, medical costs have outpaced our salaries. We have compressed wages and have not been able to fix this with the salaries that were based on pre-COVID standards. We have had no relief from economic stress, and while our state has given bonuses to teachers, our support has not been included. We have experienced food shortages in our pantries, and the outlook is not good. With the possibility of opening the contract for a CPI, Consumer Price Index, in June, this would be the last opportunity for our support staff to receive assistance for cost of living until next year. For some, this may come too late. For others, this may be the last blessing to hold on until next year. On behalf of the CWA, we wish everyone a healthy and happy summer vacation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weisberg. Mr. Flint, and then Kenneth Simon.
Hello, David Flint. I'm a resident here of Indian River County. Born and raised here. Went to school, Vero Beach High School. I'm now a local business owner and enjoy this county. It's a great town we live in, and we've got a great school system. We've got a bunch of great schools, and I'm thankful for all the work that you all do in making that happen. And so sincerely thank each one of you. I'm here to speak to the safe, respectful, inclusive education policy. The racial equity policy that's being repealed, I know it's being repealed. I'm not going to say that you should keep it. I'm not going to say that there's any chance that it's not going to stay around. We know that that's gone. I do think it's unfortunate. I think that we need to send a very clear message to our black and brown students in this community that we see you, we hear you, we love you, we validate you, and we want to continue to support you. And that goes through every level of education. And when you look from test scores to graduation rates, our students of color are not there where our Caucasian students are. And I think that this policy is vitally important to speak to the value and the importance of students of color in our community. I thank you for bringing it forward, and I, as a voting member of this community, urge our elected officials to make sure that this policy goes through and we send an appropriate message to the students of this community. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Simon, and then we have Jennifer Pippin.
Good evening. I've noticed that a large portion of my property taxes goes to public schools, and I couldn't help but notice the acknowledgement of the many philanthropic gifts this evening that were noticed here. And it seems reasonable to me that we could acquire some cost-benefit analysis of that money. And where do we rank among schools among other nations academically? What grade are children becoming capable of autodidactic learning? May the taxpayers acquire copies of textbooks that are being used? How much is spent on protecting students and teachers from violence by students who are likely to engage in such behavior? How much is spent on possible invasions by trespassing armed assassins? Entertainment medias may have pulled learning and reading levels down, but misbehavior by children in school is one of the besetting problems. A person's behavior depends on their moral code of conduct and their consciences. In his first annual address, George Washington warned that the nation would be endangered if there was a failure to discriminate the spirit of liberty from the spirit of licentiousness, cherishing the first, avoiding the last, with an inviolable respect for the laws. When I was a child in elementary school in New Jersey, we had opening exercises as we began each day of formal public school instruction. The teacher would call on certain students, one each day, to come forward and stand beside her desk to read aloud a psalm from the Bible, and then we would bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer, and then we would all stand and declare the Pledge of Allegiance to the country as we fixed our gaze upon the U.S. flag. I remember more than one teacher writing the golden rule with her chalk on the blackboard on the first day of school and say to us, "This is our rule for behavior in this class and should be our personal rule for life." I don't remember any ill effects coming from these procedures that we did before we got down to the business of teaching and learning. George Washington stated in his farewell address, "Whatever may be conceded to the influence of refined education on minds of peculiar structure, reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle." I ask you that you would consider the same opening exercises I have mentioned here for the public schools of Indian River County.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Jennifer Pippin and then Anthony Brown.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin, and I'm the chairman for Moms for Liberty, Indian River, Florida. And first, I want to say congratulations to all of the graduates and everybody that was involved in getting those graduations done. They were beautiful. I either attended them in person or watched on YouTube. It was amazing. So congratulations to, again, everybody who was involved in that as well. I wanted to bring up something that was brought to our attention with Moms for Liberty, with one of our Moms for Liberty fathers. And he was looking at the physical education amount of time for his child in one of the schools. And we found out that the physical education assessment is 1003.455 is not being done properly in our school district. And it's not just this school district, it's school districts across the state of Florida that we found out through Jacqueline Rosario as she was reaching out to other superintendents and other school board members across the state. So K-5 is supposed to be getting 30 minutes a day at 150 a week, and that's not happening. We had parents that we reached out to through our organization, and they asked teachers, they asked administrators, and that is unfortunately not getting done. And also 20 minutes of free play recess at 80 minutes a week. And again, this is per statute, so this isn't something that somebody voted on many, many years ago. This is in state statute. And again, if you want to review it, it's 1003.455. So I urge you at the beginning of the next school year to make sure that the principals are aware of this and to make sure that our K-5 students are able to play and learn kindness through that and be able to have free time in between learning math and science and true history. The second thing I would like to bring up is ingenuity. That is the required state-mandated 5 hours of mental health that has to be done through the school district. And through ingenuity, I'm not sure who vetted these programs, but I urge you to definitely take a look at it. I was doing a little bit of this with my daughter in the 11th grade, and there was one segment, for example, this is just one of many, Living Your Best Life was one of the segments, and it had critical race theory in it. It had a lot of race pitting against one race against another, saying that one race can do something better than another. Overcoming anxiety, who should I tell and not tell? With the quiz at the end, there was no option to tell your parents. It was a counselor, it was a school counselor, it was something like that. So again, against the parental rights law. Overcoming suicide, the answer to the question at the end of the 4-minute segment was talk to a trusted peer, teacher, mentor, or counselor, or someone on a suicide hotline. Again, no parent or guardian was mentioned in this, and that was the only answer that was valid for that. So I just urge you to please look into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pippin. Anthony Brown, and then Kevin Browning.
Good afternoon, Board. Anthony Brown. First, I want to say thank you for those of you, Dr. Jones, and others who's standing up, and history will show that you stood on the right side with this new policy. The old one is gone, and people don't understand that Dr. Moore and some of you would have been in deep trouble had you not looked to do something and repeal it, because we have a supermajority in the state legislature, and we have a governor that owns the 11th Circuit. So I commend you for standing up and doing what's right for our children. We hope that when history tells us this story years from now, you did what was right, you did what was right for our children, you did what was right for all children, and what you're doing will enhance the success of all children, especially children of color. And based on, in our community recently, someone stood at this same podium to let you know how bad this policy is needed and said about Negro people. In 2023, you're talking about Negro people. Then someone tried to make a joke out of something I said about all skin folk ain't kin folk. When people try to understand who we are, how we are, when we have a board member that represents our community that knows nothing about us, cares nothing about us, has not engaged with any of us in our community. As was stated, I'm on the DSEG order, I'm on the work group. The judge has been notified, but in the moment we cannot stand still as time go by and not have something to protect our children. So for the board members that are standing tall and standing in the way and helping to do the right thing, I humbly thank you and support you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Kevin Browning, and then we have Edward Spencer.
Good evening, Chairman Jones, board members, Superintendent Dr. Moore. Oh, and good to see Mr. Seymour, a great addition to the ESC department. Now, certainly we love to say thank you to the school district and the community because of the graduation and the scholarship nights. I got to attend the Vero Beach High School Scholarship Night, where a beautifully diverse group of presenters gave scholarships to a diverse group of students. Then there was the May 20th event in Gifford on Saturday, the emancipation event. That May 20th was when Florida emancipated the slaves. And that was another fine group of people coming together, a very diverse group, a true showing of community, oneness, and love. So I'd like to say, board, thank you for taking efforts to take care of all kids with the policy that you're bringing forward and putting good policies in place. You know, some twist his words, but the most important person said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if you have love one to another."
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Edward Spencer and Diane Parentella.
Hello, my name is Pastor Edward Spencer, part of the NAACP, part of the Pastors Association. And I also have a private school that's predominantly black kids. First of all, I want to concur with what Mr. Brown said about what I've heard about you, Dr. Jones. I appreciate you. Okay, but my thing is this. I'm so afraid for the kids that's in my school, because sooner or later I'm going to have to turn them over to the public school system. What am I to tell them? Am I to tell them that you put more emphasis on the flag than you do what it's supposed to mean? That's one reason why I won't stand up to it. Because until we focus on the morals and the principles of what it stands for, the material means nothing. So we're really standing up to material and not the principles and the morals of what it's supposed to be. I'm afraid for my kids, so when they get into the public school system, what are they going to face? What they got to look to, what they got to look forward to. When you want to examine black kids, you can't examine them outside the box. You got to find somebody in there. Talk to them. They'll tell you. You got to think about what that kid is going through, what's going on in his home, you know what I mean, what's going on, do we have a father, all these different things before you make a decision about one kid or another. Each kid is different. So once again, I appreciate what you're doing, what you've done. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Diane Parentella, and then Robert Connolly.
Good evening. I hosted my Scholastic Book Fair last week. My intention for hosting the book fair at this time of year is to promote summer reading, and my students were all so very excited to shop for new books. The new board policy related to new library books limits my ability to buy new books to twice a year. An earlier draft of the policy allowed for books to be reviewed for purchase 4 times a year. Now we are limited to the July and December board meetings. I did manage to present a list to my SAC committee following policy, in order to make the 60-day window to get on the July board agenda. I would ask that you consider adding the October meeting as an additional opportunity to present book lists for review, especially in this first year of the new requirements. There are currently 3 media specialist jobs posted. I know of at least 2 other schools that will have a new media specialist next year. Allowing for schools to present their new book list to their SAC in August would allow for time to get the lists onto the October board agenda. District media specialists will be meeting on August 4th, District PD Day, to start the year. We would have time to collaborate on book lists as a group, but current policy would dictate that those lists would have to wait until the December meeting for board approval. I ask that you please consider adding another meeting where new library books can be reviewed for purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parentella. Robert Connolly, and then Michael Marsh.
Good evening, Board. My name is Robert. I go by Chuck Conley. I'm a concerned citizen, voter, grandfather, and property owner for the last 18 years in Vero, permanently the last 4 years. And my father, God bless him, 98 years old, has been living for 35 years in his Sebastian home. So I have a good feeling, and as do all my family and friends that come and visit, that we love this little gem, as we call Vero Beach, and a lot of people do. So why am I here? Why are we all here? Well, we hope it's for our kids and our grandkids. That's especially why I'm here, because without them, or without us being for them, all would be lost. They're what our future is about. This is kind of my second journey through Florida. I first started in 1970, and out of college I taught at Hollywood Hills High School down in Broward County. So I have fond memories of my first passion in my life's journey, and that's why I started to get interested in what's going on in the community and in the school board. And I've been kind of standing by and watching and learning and trying to understand some of the things that are going on. In between those years, I lived in different states, in Connecticut and also in Dallas, Texas area, and traveled for business throughout internationally, in China and Europe and Central America. And from all my experiences around the world, I was easy to deduce that we're living in the best country in the world. So the values that were instilled in me from early life, and even from to this day, probably from early age, growing up in New York, but look for good in each person that you meet. Mutual respect is needed. Your word is your bond. Tell the truth. God, family, and country were at forefront, at home and in school and everywhere that we went. Fast forward, 2021, I started to see the struggle, and not only in local community, but also nationally in the schools. Due to all the things that are happening, whether it's COVID or the media, things that are played out in the media, federal government policies, seem to be creating like strange behaviors. Morals and values seem to be deteriorating fast. Natural laws and God's laws that were the foundation of our great republic, giving way to what I call decadence, dysfunction, and division. Even our little gem was being clouded. Our discussions here should be moral discussion, not political or partisan, based on values, principles, and natural law and God's law, the basis of which our country was formed. Not on agendas and ideologies that are against these laws. If any of you haven't ever heard of the Marxist agenda, I'm sure you have. These ideologies are evident and parallel.
So thank you very much. Your time is ended. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate all you do. I didn't get to the good part about all the good you do in the schools.
Thank you so much. Well, you can come back next time.
I'm really impressed with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Marsh and then Dr. Mara Schiff.
Good evening, Board. I'm here to give you a year in review. I am your proudly President, Michael C. Marsh of our Indian River County Council, PTA. And I'm here to give you the good news, not good trouble. That's later. So, a year ago, almost to the day, I met with our superintendent, deputy superintendent, and we had a goal. And that goal was parent engagement. And I'm proud to say that the mission of the school district definitely aligns with the mission of PTA. And for those who may not know what that is, it's to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children, not some, for all children. And the task was, let's make certain every school has a PTA. Then after that, I got a chance to speak to Mr. Seymour as well as Ms. Emerson. And I'm proud to report that for the first time in history, school district's history, every one of your schools now has a PTA. There's currently 1,872 memberships. And before I leave on June 1, we'll have over 2,000 memberships. The new charters, those schools that never had a PTA before, Wabasso, Indian River Prep, I'm proud to say we got that done. Recharters, schools that for years didn't have a PTA, Dodgertown, Oslo, Gifford, Vero Beach High School. Then we teamed up with Clothesbin, a local organization that helps with fundraising opportunities for PTAs. Oslo, Sebastian Elementary, Indian River Prep, Vero Beach Elementary, thousands of dollars for used clothing to those schools. Then, to show you the principal buy-in, I got a phone call from the Pelican Island principal. Mr. Marsh, we're not going to have a board next year. Don't worry, I'll make sure that we're going to have that board. So to show you that parent engagement piece is happening. And I'm proud for the 1 year that I got to serve to see that. So I want to thank our superintendent, our deputy superintendent, assistant superintendent, especially if you put Ms. Emerson on an email, people listen. In 15 minutes, it's actually 5. People get to work when Ms. Emerson's on the email. And I want to thank you when we had our district trainings that those school board members took time out to come and see what is going on with PTA. And amazing community partners, and I don't have time to name all of them, but Kona Ice, all these different businesses that said, you know what, we're here for all children. And last but not least, I want to end with ESC. I am proud to see the direction ESC is moving to. I want to thank Ms. Dampierre. We now have ESC Safeguards, a shortened form that I hope that the board gets to see, and I will be sending that out. And I want to thank the entire ESC department. And racial inequity, thank you, Doc Jones, for making certain that all children are on your radar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Now we have Dr. Schiff and then Thomas Kenny.
Good evening. A couple of acknowledgements first. I want to mention, I want to give a shout out to an unsung hero who's not here tonight, and that's Ms. Nancy Esplin. Nancy retired, I believe, as of last week. She's not here, so I can't thank her in person, but I want to say she's the best executive assistant with whom I have ever worked. She is devoted. She is the reason these meetings go as smoothly and as functionally as they do, and I don't think we've sufficiently acknowledged all the work that she's done to support this board and this district over the years. So thank you, Ms. Esplin, if you're watching. Also, exactly. I also want to give a shout out to the graduates of this year, even though I was not in attendance. I did watch some of it on the live stream, and I must say I was not too upset to not shake 1,100 hands this year. I did not miss that part of my weekend. Lastly, I want to address the outgoing old policy and the incoming new policy. I want to thank Doc Jones for being the architect of that policy, to the board members who will support that policy. And I want to be clear. It's been said at various times here that we need that policy because we have been in violation of the law in some way. And I want to quote from the letter we received from the Department of Education that says, after initial review of the policies and procedures submitted by the School District of Indian River County, it appears that some of these policies may not yet have been updated to comply with Florida law and the State Board of Education, et cetera, and your district should strive to review all its policies, et cetera, that may not comport with Florida law. At no place in this letter does it say that this district is breaking the law. That is considerable misinformation that has been put out there. You're not breaking the law. And I commend the initiative of this board for ensuring that we are replacing an important and necessary policy with yet another policy that I think is equally important and necessary, though I wish we were keeping the old one. If we were breaking the law, I'd be wondering why people aren't getting arrested. Why is there not a criminal complaint? Why is nobody being taken out in handcuffs? There's no accusation. There's been no fiscal repercussions from the Board of Education, the Department of Education. There's been no consequence from the Department of Education. So I'm clear that the District of Indian River County has not in any way broken the law and is moving forward and taking the initiative to ensure that all students in this district get the quality education they deserve, that all students are treated fairly, that none are held back disproportionately in discipline or in academics. And let's please continue to follow the data that demonstrate and give us guidance on how students can thrive in our schools. Please let's pass this policy and move forward rather than backward on racial equity in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schiff. Thomas Kenny.
So I want to address the desegregation order. You know, this case once had noble cause, the desegregation of Indian River County schools. The 67 order produced the first school choice in our county where students could apply to any school. And today we have school choice throughout the district, and this year the state of Florida expanded scholarships to all, opening up choice that promotes student integration across the state. The 67 order mandated as much transportation, quote, as feasible. Today, busing is provided countywide, and it required equalization where all facilities meet the same standards. Today, the district has achieved unitary status on that point. The 67 order also said, whether they were black educators or white educators, more than one minority teacher in school. In the right cause of integration, the term minority meant something different in 1967. The order also required non-discrimination hiring practices. Today, district policies 1122, 3122, 4122, equal employment opportunity, as well as 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunity, that are strictly enforced successfully govern these practices. So why are we still under a deseg order? Well, in 1994, a new plaintiff, the NAACP, and the IRC Board of Education agreed to a revised order approving plan that expanded on the 67 order. They devised it, negotiated it, and asked for its approval. Both parties were solely responsible for it. While a judge approved it, the plaintiff and defendant managed it, not the court. So when you hear the excuse, the court ordered it, quote unquote, it means the two parties made a pact and the judge signed off on it. And this is where we are today. Two lawyered up organizations are managing the outcomes affecting the schools based on legal strategies like critical race theory. Today, legal ideology drives this case. The lawfare creates a false narrative of race relations that politicians and activists use in feature columns of Bureau News. The negotiated 2018 plan has convoluted the 94 plan and the spirit of the 67 order. Subsequently, in 2019, the Equity Committee chair wrote a memorandum demanding terms of the agreement changed. There are multiple status reports. One's 584 pages long. In January at the work group, and you can watch it on YouTube, it took an hour and 15 minutes to determine what is a consent agenda and what constitutes minutes. There were 4 lawyers in the room. The district just asked for $100,000 more for their legal budget. It's time for this charade to end. Look around you. There are amazing individuals in this room. They came here because they are free to do so. The district is not systemically racist. It's time for both parties in this case to recognize it and have Judge Williams sign off on it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That's it for now. We'll go into the other ones with those who want to speak to consent pulled to action. But Dr. Moore, would you like to respond with anything?
I hate to have to put my glasses on. Just some matters of clarification. First, we did provide a bonus to our teachers with ESSER funds, and we provide the same bonus, Mr. Fagan, to CWA employees. So that did take place. So there wasn't one bonus for teachers and not another bonus that wasn't equal to what we did provide to teachers. Mr. Fagan, that is correct. Also, PE K5, that is something that has been brought to our attention. Ms. Becerra is working with principals in order to evaluate where we need to ensure that is in fact taking place. As stated, it is a statute, and we need to make sure that it's actually happening within our schools. I am very confident Ms. Becerra will make sure what is on paper in terms of the master scheduling is happening in our school sites. Also, the Ingenuity program that was referenced, I think it was Ms. Pippin who mentioned that. We're looking at that program as well. We have very transparently had some issues with things that we've asked staff to remove that have unfortunately come back onto our platform. So we are looking at, is that the most effective, useful tool for us to use in terms of that 5 hours of required instruction. We're also working with the state. I'll be with the state tomorrow most of the day, hoping to get some questions answered there. If that training will shift to resiliency, or is it going to still be what it currently is? So we are on top of that and make sure everything that we provide in any system, whether it's an outside source or not, is in fact compliant with all requirements. When it comes to the ordering of books, we did approve a policy that identifies 2 windows in time. We provided a great deal of training to our staff to make sure those orders are coming in. Those orders are coming in, so they will be coming to the board for approval in the upcoming meeting. So we could look at, and working with staff and our media specialists, if there's an opportunity to look at a 3rd window and it is efficient. I see no reason not to. I just haven't received that feedback yet. I just received it here today, so that is something I will give board the assurances I will look at. In terms of the desegregation order, I think we have done, let me just say this, it is a very, very old order that has been ignored for way too long. In 2016, the district began to work with the NAACP and came up with the 2018 joint plan. And we've been implementing that plan. And it is hard, arduous work, and we have fought hard not to be lawyered up, but to honor the 2018 joint plan as it is written. Where we currently stand, we were in Miami, Mr. Seymour, Dr. Shafty, probably 6-9 months ago. And we made some modifications to the plan, in which we would help identify what are the key performance indicators to evaluate the district's progress. And 2018 joint plan referenced outcomes, but didn't specifically say what those outcomes would be. So yes, it is painstakingly taking longer than anybody would like, but if we're truly to evaluate our progress, that is the work that we've been charged to do. And we are, in fact, making progress towards that goal. And once we evaluate the work, then we'll determine what are our next steps, and we'll do that by keeping the board fully informed. I think that allows me, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, board members, Ms. Rosario?
Dr. Moore, thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Moore, I have some follow-up questions regarding the racial equity policy that I'd like for you to answer. Just for clarification, there were a lot of accusations that were thrown at us here claiming that we were in violation. One, of course, stated that we were in violation of a federal mandate or a federal law. So one question to you, sir, or if you want to defer to Ms. Shattuck, that would be fine. The racial equity policy that is on the agenda for Wednesday to be repealed, was that a federal mandate?
No.
Was the racial equity policy created as a mandate of Florida law?
No.
Was the racial equity policy required in the desegregation order?
Through the chair, no, it's you all own policy.
Okay.
But was it required?
Was it
No.
required in the
Not part of the
desegregation order?
2018 joint plan. It
Okay.
didn't say create a policy.
Okay. Was the racial equity policy, or does the racial equity policy violate any of our anti-harassment or non-discrimination policies, of which we have many?
Does
the repeal of that policy violate
No.
any of our anti-harassment or non-discrimination policies?
It does not.
Okay, we have 2 of which I pulled up as citizens were talking, which again are 2 of of many that we have. They are non-discrimination. One is policy 2260 and another one is 3122. 2260 states, any form of discrimination or harassment can be devastating to an individual's academic progress, social relationship, and/or personal sense of self-worth. As such, the school board will not discriminate nor tolerate harassment in its educational programs and activities on the basis of race, including anti-Semitism, as defined in Bylaw 0100, ethnicity, color, national origin, sex, including sexual orientation, gender status, and gender identity, disability, including HIV, AIDS, or sickle cell trait, pregnancy, marital status, age, religion, military status, ancestry, or genetic information, which are classes protected by state and/or federal law. That is in one of our policies, and the other policy is very similar, begins in the same fashion. Very few changes to them. Would that policy, the one that I just read, still hold our feet to the fire in making sure that we will not discriminate in any way, shape, or form?
Through the chair, there's a number of policies that we would be able to hold ourselves accountable.
Okay. And then there were some concerns of warnings. This will be my last question on this. There were some concerns about the policy and the letter that was sent from the DOE to the district saying that we were not in violation. But from what I understand from that legal advice that came to us, there was a concern that it may have, and it was up to the district and the school board to review the policies and to determine whether it did or did not. It's my understanding that you had a follow-up, you and Mrs. Shattuck had a follow-up conversation with DOE legal, and I believe you had a conversation with then commissioner, I suppose it might have been, either the commissioner or the chancellor of the Department of Education. You can clarify that. And both advised that this policy and some of the language that was included in the policy would be interpreted as a violation of, I believe it's HB 7.
Yeah. So through the chair, let me just clarify. Lawyers advise, superintendent acts. My recommendation to this board, I make recommendations to the board to act, is to repeal the policy because throughout the policy there are things that may be interpreted as violating House Bill 7.
So one of the reasons why no one's currently getting arrested is because we gave our word that we were currently repealing it, correct?
Through the chair, yes, multiple times. We were following our process that was designed to best meet the needs of our community, correct?
And I guess this would be for Ms. Shattuck. Not that we would get all arrested, but from what I understand through the legal process in terms of things like this that we're talking about, if a policy is being violated, for example, or a process or a procedure were being violated, if it was brought to our attention from the Florida Department of Education legal team or from the commissioner's office, part of the fix of that would be that we are charged to cure that issue. And I know that cure is the legal term that's used. In other words, you have to fix it. Show us that you're going to fix it, show us that you're going to do something about it, and then it's all well and good. Thank you so much for fixing it. Am I correct in that?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, that is correct. If there is a violation of the policy, then we are charged with fixing the policy. If the violation is alleged that because of new legislation that it conflicts with something in our policy, then we are charged with making those corrections.
Okay, so Ms. Shattuck, I'm sorry, I thought I said the other one was going to be my last one. This will definitely be my last one. In the recommendation of the repeal of this racial equity policy happening on Wednesday, if that indeed is the case, because it's on the agenda for that, would that be the cure that the Florida Department of Education and their legal team would be satisfied with?
Thank you. Through the chair, when I spoke with the DOE, they only provided guidance that, we should review our own policies and make sure that they comply with legislation. And we provided them assurances that we were moving forward with doing that as directed. They were not providing us direct review of our policies or, direct direction in exactly what we had to do. Thank you.
Dr. Moore.
Through the chair, it was me who had the conversations. Yes, it is the board's responsibility to uphold its own policies. So as I had staff review it and look at the policy itself, that is what yielded the recommendation. That is what was communicated to the Florida Department of Education. We will work with staff and the board to review the policy and make the appropriate recommendations to the board for approval.
Okay. I'd also like to follow up on, thank you so much for that, Dr. Moore and Ms. Shattuck, for answering those questions, just to clarify those questions that we had, obviously, on this topic. I'd like to switch a little bit to the PE comment, just so that there's, transparency in what had occurred. There was a concern. It was brought to the district's attention, and as Dr. Moore said, we are looking to fix that. But just so that you all are aware, it appears that this isn't an Indian River County concern. This is a larger concern that many other districts are facing as well and should be fixing as well. So just wanted to make that known because, it made me feel a little bit better that it wasn't just us, that there are other districts, unfortunately, in the same situation. And Dr. Moore, when you send us the information on the book purchases, I don't recall the number of times in which library and media center specialists would purchase books. I don't recall that being in any of the recent policies that we created on the library process. I may not have remembered that, but I know that I was deeply involved in the wording, and how that was created. So it might be a different policy, I'm not sure.
Through the chair, thank you. It's actually not in the policy, it's just part of the way we have defined the work so that it's streamlined and we can make sure that we're doing it correctly. But we have a meeting actually set with the media specialist so we can revisit the timeline. We did not want to have every month we really wanted to be able to vet this to make sure that we're in compliance with the statutes.
So is this something that would come to us as a new policy? Is that what you're recommending? Or are you recommending to just keep it within the procedure and you all change it
Through the chair,
accordingly?
as state law changes, policy changes, and reactionary procedures change. That is the procedure that we've created 2 times a year. If it is not efficient and not flexible enough for us to get the appropriate resources in the hands of kids, obviously we would look at it and make modifications. But at the end of the day, we're going to create something from a district's perspective that allows us to be compliant. And as we implement, we will be reflective in saying if there's opportunities to change or modify practice to improve the systems we have in place to be in service of our teachers, our media specialists, and our students, ultimately, we surely would do that.
Yeah, I would just say, because I know that you said that you would bring it to us as a policy, but it's not in our policy, so as a procedure, I would certainly support that. I mean, 3 times a year or whatever is recommended, but I get the monthly, purchases. So yeah, and while I'm on there, Dr. Moore, what is the update on the weeding of the library books?
So through the chair, they're closing up that process now. As you know, there's only 10 days left in the school year. Weeding is a process that unfortunately this system had not gone through intentionally for many years. So prior to saying let's purchase books, we asked media specialists to step back, evaluate what's currently in your media centers, and do the appropriate process. We will now do that as an annual basis and encourage teachers or media specialists to do that throughout the year. Because ultimately, we want to keep fresh, relevant books on our shelves. We don't want, books speaking about technology that talk about an Apple IIe computer, or we don't want VCR tapes to be available that no one can even play. Most kids don't even know what they are. So there's been a lot of work to update the resources and materials that are in our schools to make sure that we're appropriate.
So I thought we were going to get a presentation update and what books were weeded out, I suppose. That's not, because you're needing to report that soon to the DOE.
Through the chair, once it is done, we'd have to step back, and it's a lot of books from a lot of different schools. So we'd have to go back and figure out how we would create that ultimate list. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other board member? Mr. Barefoot?
Well, I don't have really anything to add. I think the issues that Dr. Moore addressed were the ones that I made note of. I do think it's like anything else. When you start a new process or new procedure, you're going to find ways to improve on them. And if it's necessary to add a third or a fourth time frame in which to review books, I'm sure we'll do it. I don't think that's something you put in policy. That's more about how you manage the policy. There's a big difference. That's really all I can add.
Ms. Barrenborg?
I'm good, thank you.
Dr. Posca?
Sure. I'll just add, based on some of the comments, I think it's important to highlight that we're not removing any non-discrimination, equal employment, or any other associated policies that deal with the equality of students or staff. We are removing an equity and diversity policy that dictates essentially that the district follow what's really a nebulous directive to give extra resources or special treatment to students based specifically on race. The basis for these equity policies around the country is that there is systemic racism and that black individuals need extra help in order to succeed. I think all students should be treated equally because they are, and I think that some people do need extra help to make it through that, but I don't think it has anything to do with the color of their skin. We have always at this district, and we always will, continue to help students and employees succeed when they're having troubles, regardless of any policy. Additionally, I think it's important to point out this policy has no legal bearing or significance on the reintegration. And I'll just say in closing, even though it was extremely hot during the Vero Beach High School graduation, I will say shaking those 1,100 hands was the highlight of my year so far.
Thank you. Just a few things with the library books, and that was mentioned as far as ordering 3 times. Yeah, that needs to go into procedure, not policy, so we don't have to change it every time. The comments made by everyone regarding repealing a policy, replacing it, being here for about 40-some years, we will continue to work hard on making sure that, we are here for all students, and being part of the work group for the federal DSEG order, it's very, very important that we continue to move forward. And Dr. Moore, I think we're moving forward, and we'll continue to do that and look at the key performance indicators. And if we have concerns, we'll look at them and work together to make it work. That's the only way. All right, anybody else? All right, we are now going into the approval of the consent agenda items as amended. Chair calls for a motion to approve the consent agenda item as amended, and please state your motion.
I'll make a motion to approve them as amended.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barefoot. Any discussion? Okay, those in favor of approval of the consent agenda item as amended, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that carries 5-0. All right, now we are going to the consent hold to action, and I have 2 gentlemen who wish to speak on any consent that was pulled to action. I'll read those aloud to see if you wish to speak to them. First one I have, Mr. Kenny. The first one we have to speak that consent to action is 9B. 9B, and that deals with request to set public hearing date of the Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2, Special Update. Mr. Kenny, would you like to speak to that? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I was cruising the website today, and I saw that the packet of policies that Neola has written, updated, done all these different things to be passed as a giant book. It's 120 pages. I don't know how many policies are in there. I haven't really looked, but I just started perusing them all, and there's some in there that, yeah, you could just sort of do. There's minor language changes and things like that, and that's fine. But then there's other things, like the Student Suicide Prevention Awareness and Screening, which has whole paragraphs of new stuff that I think should be openly debated with public concern separately from this packet. I mean, there's a call in here basically that, I'm just going to read it because it sort of shocked me. Only school-based mental health service providers who have been trained in the use of the instruments utilized by the district may give a risk assessment to a student expressing suicidal ideation or suicidal intent. A school-based mental health service provider, quote unquote, means a school psychologist certified under FAC, a school social worker certified under FAC, these are the rules, a school counselor certified, or a mental health professional licensed under Florida statutes chapters 490 or 91, who is employed or contracted by the district to provide mental health services in schools. It doesn't say anything about a parent's choosing of a psychologist or a counselor on their own, certified, and doing these assessments themselves. Doesn't even say anything about the parent being involved in this. Matter of fact, it doesn't say anything about parents until you get to this. When a suicide risk assessment results in the initiation of an involuntary examination, the principal is required to make a reasonable attempt to notify the student's parents. I don't know the language of this is proper. And so these are things that have to be discussed. They just can't be thrown into a packet and then consent and put them into public hearing. Doesn't make sense. There are probably others in here. I don't say there's a majority, but this is a big deal. And so the big deals need to be pulled out, and we need to have a big deal, transparent discussion about it. That's my point. And so with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Kenny, you can stay up here. We'll go through all of them if you want to, the ones that were pulled.
I'm sorry, this is the only one I wanted to speak to.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And as far as the naming stuff, good job.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Marsh, you're up here for the action, consent that pulled to action. The first one is Neola policies, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yes, ma'am. Michael C. Marsh, Chair of Mike for Liberty and We the Real People of IRC. Also the Social Studies Instructional Materials Adoption Committee member and your old MPO SDRC representative. Thank you for the chance to speak tonight, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. All right. I think that's it for the people who wanted to speak, consent to action. All right, so I'm going to recognize Dr. Moore for his report and recommendations on items pulled from consent to action. They were your items. You placed them here. We'll do them one by one. And the first one, Neola Policies 9B.
That item is to request set for public hearing for the 7/24/23 Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2, and the special update, and maybe for the last time, Ms. Dampier.
Thank you, Ms. Dampier.
Thank you. In reference to Policy 5350, which is the Student Suicide Prevention Awareness and Screening, there is a process that is stated in our handbook that the parent is notified. If there's a change in placement, you see the last paragraph, it says when a suicide risk assessment results in a change of placement or related services or monitoring, a student's parent must be notified. But the school will make every attempt to make sure the parent is notified of any type of suicide risk. And there is an instrument that is used at the state of Florida that we use from the DOE that outlines whether or not it's a risk. And our law enforcement are involved in that process as well. So it's not just, we're not trying to notify the parent, it is a collaboration. We're making sure that that is first thing first.
Thank you, Pam. Ms. Dampier, sorry.
What's that?
And I do want to acknowledge the painstaking process staff has created to brief the board on each and every single policy. So just to state what that procedure is. Staff has the opportunity to meet with each board member to discuss each of the policies assigned to their areas of responsibility, to discuss the recommended changes, to receive feedback. We then present them at workshop and provide the board the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions or have a conversation amongst themselves. Then it is presented prior to going to public hearing, sent to public hearing, and then it comes back from public hearing. So there is a painstaking process that we ensure each of our board members have voice on policies that ultimately Neola or staff may be recommending, so to ensure it is in fact captured the will of the board.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll need a motion and
Madam Chair, I pulled this.
Yeah, I know. Just wait just a moment. So we'll need a motion and a second to go into discussion, and then I'll call on the board member who pulled it.
I make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Rosario. Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion then? Ms. Rosario?
Yes, ma'am. I pulled this because I saw a couple of edits that need addressing. So I'm going to, page 37, policy 2271. Wait and see. Oh, you don't want to pull it up. There's a word in the second to last paragraph that needs to be changed. It is written, and it states, a student may lost the opportunity to participate, should be lose, the opportunity to participate in a dual enrollment course. This is on dual enrollment. I just also want clarity that grades 6 through 12 are all considered secondary in our public education system. Because one paragraph indicates that students in grades 6 through 12 who meet the eligibility requirements are eligible for dual enrollment. And then in the next paragraph, it states all secondary school students. So I just want to make sure that we're referring to the same group. When we say secondary, that includes 6 through 12. Okay. Then on the next page, well, actually, there's no real edit on there. I have my notes on the next page. Same policy regarding dual enrollment. We have a new law, right? A new law that was just passed, House Bill 1035, which establishes the dual enrollment educator scholarship program to assist Florida public high school teachers in obtaining the graduate degree and credentials necessary to provide dual enrollment coursework directly to students on high school campuses. I know this was a conversation that we have had, and I know at workshops we have had recently on getting more teachers certified for dual enrollment. So I'm not quite sure if maybe we should pull this policy just to kind of find out, you know, what we should do about that. Should we include that in here? Or should we just wait until July 1st? You know, I'm not so sure what to do about that.
Okay, any other board member discussion? Or Dr. Moore, would you like to respond to Ms. Rosario?
Through the chair, this book of policies brings us up to date, so any shifts or modifications that are taking place right now will come in the next series. So I think we would be fine approving it as is.
Okay.
With those recommended edits.
All right,
Yeah,
any other board
with the other
member?
ones, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, then I have page policy 5136. That is the wireless communication devices. Considering the previous answer and response and recommendation to wait until July 1st, I look forward to waiting until July 1st to edit this one because there's another House bill that just passed, 379, that gives teachers the authority to establish classrooms rules. And I think there's wording in there that really allows the school boards to implement web filtering to prevent students from connecting on certain social media platforms. So we just need to make sure that we, in the future, incorporate that in this policy since it hasn't taken effect yet until July 1st.
Okay, let's just go to other board members on the first part. Any other discussion on the pulled item with Ms. Rosario on the Neola policies that have been stated so far? Mr. Barefoot, Mr. Barham, okay.
I would say that I'm going to agree with the superintendent. I think those edits make a lot of sense, so thank you for looking at that.
Okay, and we were looking at waiting until July 1st, correct, Dr. Moore? Just so we make sure we're in guidelines with all the state and everything else. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Rosario.
The other one that I have is another grammar edit. Policy 1213.
What page?
Page 102. It's in the exception clause. It's all in green. It reads, let me get it. An administrator is permitted to withhold information, blah, 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 it's too long, or well-being from a parent is a reasonable, prudent. I think that needs to be changed to something else. It just doesn't sound right the way that it is, that it's written. So if you could just take a look at that. So we're withholding, we can withhold students' mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being from a parent is, I think it's supposed to be if a reasonable, prudent person would believe that the disclosure, because we're not supposed to withhold anything unless you believe that there is cause for concern for the child's, physical, mental or physical state.
Yeah, that's a typo.
So that should be an if.
Okay.
And then my last edit that I saw, going back to the 5350 on the suicide prevention. The third paragraph from the bottom, it reads, if a trained school-based mental health services provider is unavailable, a contracted, certified, or licensed mental health, and then it drops off, provide, may evaluate students. So I think that should be provider, mental health provider, or mental health specialist should provide or provides. That just needs to be edited there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosario. So, Dr. Moore, board members, any discussion or follow-up on that? Good. So, Dr. Moore, are we going to look at those edits and then bring it back to the board, or what is your?
I think we can make those edits, and you could still approve the item.
Okay, all right. All right, so that concludes the 9B. Ms. Rosario would like to make a motion on the item.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2.
With corrections?
Yes, as amended.
Okay.
Apologies.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Rosario to adopt as amended. Dr. Pasco with the second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that amended motion, 5-0. All right, the next one that was pulled was 5B, and that was simply the corrections on the approval of the business meeting minutes. Ms. Rosario?
Oh, yes. Sorry. So there is on April 24th, which was our last meeting, I pulled the entire, actually it was this entire policy book of volume 23, number 2, to be voted on under action item, but we didn't actually do that. Instead, we discussed one of those policies that were in the entire manual, but we didn't vote on the entire manual thereafter. So it just needs to be added in our minutes that Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2, were not voted on at that meeting.
All right, thank you. Any discussion, board members, or Dr. Moore?
No discussion, but I will bring that item back in the June meeting, so you
Okay.
can approve it. That is correct.
So we do not need to approve it now, or?
You're approving the amendment to
Okay,
the
all right.
minutes, and I will bring the item back, so it is approved.
Okay, Ms. Rosario, would you state your motion one more time,
Yes,
please?
I'd like to make a motion to amend April 24th business meeting minutes to include Neola Policies, Volume 23, Number 2, and special update were not voted on under action item.
Okay, we must have a second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Ms. Fahrenborg?
Yeah, I noticed the same thing and brought it to the attention of the superintendent, and so he said that we would bring it up. And
Okay.
so I'm glad that you brought it up, Ms. Rosario, because I would have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All in favor of Ms. Rosario's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Now we go into, these were Dr. Moore's that were went to action, and that was 7A and 7F, and we did,
They're
they're already
those
approved, so
Yeah, we're good.
nothing else on that. Okay, just
Yep.
wanted to make sure. And we had the correction of the minutes. Okay, very, very good. All right. Now we will go into discussion. And I did have one item on discussion, and that was about graduation. And I'm glad Dr. Posca got to experience that first graduation. It is the best thing in the world when that happens. And a lot of community members have talked to me about this. Now, when I was at Sebastian River High School, we always had our graduations at night. Out of 11, we had a little bit of rain on 7 of them, but we either held, because it was very, very important to get it finished at night. Of course, with a really bad storm or anything like that, we couldn't have done it, but we were lucky. And I remember a superintendent called me about 2 p.m. one day. He said, "You've got to cancel." I said, "Absolutely not. This weather changes in Florida about every 30 minutes, and we got through that night also." But I know why we did the Friday night and Saturday morning, and it goes way, way back, sharing the stage, looking at the weather. We always had to have a plan B, which was really hard to do. If overflow, you have in the auditorium, then the overflow in the gym, so a lot of work. So I just didn't know, Dr. Moore, if you could start talking to your principals, your parents, your community. If you have it on Friday night, obviously the next day would be Saturday for the graduation. The morning that would work Saturday going to Sunday. It'd have to be later afternoon, obviously, because of church, but it's just something, to talk to the principals and staff about and feedback from parents. I don't know if you noticed the chant at Vero Beach High School at the end of the ceremony. Do you know what they were saying? Anybody catch that? Mm-hmm. Water. Yes. Water, water, water. So it's just something to think about. You have all these things, and the parents would have to know from day one, it could go to this next day, or day two, could go to that next day. And it's really, really hard to change that because so many plans are made with parents and students, but just something to think about because the morning graduation went into effect in this county because of stage issues and so forth. So that's just something I got from the community.
And through the chair, we've already began conversations with our high schools to identify evening graduation dates. I came home and my wife was like, "The right side of your face is just completely red. Like you have a sunburn on this side of your face, but you don't on this side." So
I even had a hat on.
But it was extremely hot, and I think with the new field, with the AstroTurf going on there, it will be even hotter. And you can't predict whether it heats, whether it's going to be rain. So we will be working for principals. The goal in our initial conversations is to identify evening dates and get them out. We open the school year with graduation dates already identified,
right.
so all the travel and all the grandparents can come. So we'll get that solidified, and I'll report back to the board prior to the opening of school.
Ms. Rosario?
I would recommend Thursday night and Friday night.
Me too.
Saying.
That's my favorite too.
We need to get a survey out to our parents.
Yeah.
Logistically, you'd kind of, I don't think she cares.
Go ahead.
I would say, logistically, it sounds like neither graduation can happen on the same night. And you need a rain out day, so we need at least 4 days. Or 2 for each school.
We need 2, and I think we need enough opportunities. If something happens where it's drastic rain,
Can't do it.
Yeah.
we would have an alternate day to go, and it would have to be a lot of rain and thunder and lightning for us to push to a
Which
different
can
date.
happen.
Yeah. But
And
it
I
should happen.
I apologize, Mr. Marsh, you wanted to speak on the discussion item, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Just
Graduation, yes.
one thing about graduation. I follow the superintendent's Facebook religiously, and I did get a chance to see that special graduation at Wabasso. And little Sammy, the only graduate over there, that was very special. So through the chair, I want to thank you, Chair and Vice Chair, for taking the time out to see Sammy on his graduation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion on graduation? Yes, Ms. Beerborg?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing I was going to bring up, so I'm thank you for that. I heard the same thing. If we did it, though, on Thursday and Friday night, which I'm all for, you have to have the alternate of possibly the next morning. And the reason why is because a lot of people bring in family members from out of town. And if you put it off a week, that really is frustrating for families. So I think you really need to consider that, a rain date time. The other thing is water, absolutely. It was nice that board members were afforded water. And you know, Superintendent, I called you about this. You know, parents were upset because students were not allowed water. And I think when we're in the heat like that for hours and hours and hours, we can't do that to kids. Just can't.
Anybody else? Okay. We will now go into board, yes, ma'am.
Just a little thought for the conversation moving forward. If, as a second option, if that next morning is still raining, if it's a Thursday and a Friday, then that's Saturday evening, the very next Saturday, literally 3 days later, 2 days later, could be the follow-up Saturday night or even Sunday evening.
Well, then that's for one school. What does the other school do then? If you have
If they
Thursday?
were both rained out, if the morning was still, if the field was still, if they were still raining in the morning, you would do Saturday night or Sunday night as a suggestion, just to have another option.
All righty. Mr. Barefoot? No?
No.
All right. Board member matters. Who would like to begin? Ms. Rosario?
I'll begin. So I attended the Value Adjustment Board meeting. It went well, very ministerial. There's going to be another follow-up again in, I believe, July. The Sebastian River High School, Vero Beach High School, of course, Charter High School, and Wabasso High School graduations went off without a hitch. It was wonderful. They really, everyone was just elated. I will mention that tomorrow is the last graduation ceremony for virtual high school, virtual Indian River virtual. So that is going to happen, I believe, here in the TEC. So I hope that everyone comes out to support our virtual students. And I wish everyone a very, very happy, healthy, restful, fun summer vacation.
Thank you, Ms. Rosario. Mr. Barefoot?
As far as committees, the MPO meeting for the month was canceled. Most of the activity the last few meetings has been around bike safety and bike lanes and the bridges and how all that can be better managed. Problem with all of these discussions is the solutions, whatever they might be, are several years out, because that's how FDOT manages their calendar. Just one comment about the graduations. I've been to a lot of them. I've presided over a few. Obviously, my kids and now a grandson. I don't care how unhappy you might be, how bad you feel, down in the dumps, there's nothing like a graduation. And I don't care at what level it is. It can be kindergarten, it can be nursery school, obviously high school, college, graduate school, we can go on and on. There's just something about celebrating all of the kids and their achievements and their families. And you talk about therapy. I mean, if somebody's not feeling good, even if they have no skin in that game and that graduation, have them go to a graduation and feel good. And watch in the case of the high schools, watch them throw their hats up in the air. Watch some of the creativity that goes on top of the hats. I mean, you know, that's worth the price of admission in and of themselves. But anyway, I think it's wonderful, and I cannot get enough of graduations, although I agree with Dr. Moore, it'd be nice if it wasn't so damn hot, but at any rate.
All right, thank you, Ms. Berenborg.
Sure. You know, this is the time of year we attend a lot of awards and graduations, and, you know, just a couple that I want to highlight. Trio, again, was wonderful, as usual, from Indian River State College, and what they do, I think, is wonderful. Scholarship nights. We went to, Sebastian had one, Vero had one, but then you have the old Dollars for Scholars is now Scholarship Foundation Awards, and I cannot believe how much money is given to students, and it's just tremendous, tremendous. So we have a very, very giving community, and it was evident tonight with our awards as well. So I attended Sebastian River High School Senior Night. That's always a trip. They celebrate the night before graduation with all the superlatives, with their awards, giving out their big, huge honors, that sort of thing. And it's just about celebrating seniors. I thought, what a nice thing to do the night before graduation when they're all partying ways is to celebrate each other. And I thought, why don't we do that with everybody? So it was wonderful. Wabasso graduation was so sweet to see Sammy and his family there, but the whole Wabasso family, it should be celebrated every day, because that faculty and staff do a tremendous job of just hugging children. What I mean by that is just taking care of them from the moment they get on campus to the moment they leave campus. So kudos to that staff. Fellsmere Dual Language Night was tremendous. It was just so good. FP&L check presentation at Gifford Middle School. You know, I really wish all board members could have been there, because to see $50,000 given to a school to increase the STEM academics was just tremendous. Kudos to you, Cindy, and your team. Well done on writing grants, thank you, and reaching out, because that was a grant that they got, so I appreciate that. Treasure Coast Technical College graduation, again, was wonderful. We didn't get any of those tear-jerking graduation speeches from the GED students that I, wish that we had gotten, but it was always wonderful to see so many people, and that has exploded, how many kids. I remember the first one, like you said, was only, 6 kids, and it was over at in their parking lot. And I was the guest, I was the speaker, because they didn't have one. And I just showed up and I spoke. So it was nice to see, though, how many students we have walking across that stage now. And Nancy's farewell was wonderful. And, Nancy Esplin did a lot for this community behind the scenes. People don't realize what that face in the first room when you walk back in the school board office does every day. And I think a lot of people looking from the outside in think it's an easy job. It's not. You are wrestling 5 of us and all of the other kittens that are running around trying to catch. So I think, she will be missed, and I appreciate everything that she did for us.
Thank you. My committee reports with Fellsmere Planning and Development, Economic Development Council. They're all talking about growth here in Vero Beach and how we're going to handle it in affordable housing. Tomorrow will be my 7th graduation. As Ms. Berenborg said, the Upward Bound Trio 1 at IRSC was excellent. Wabasso was just heartfelt. I had the pleasure of attending Indian River Charter High School and actually announcing the graduates and having them turn the tassels, and that was a wonderful opportunity. Of course, Vero Beach High School, Sebastian River High School, outstanding. Treasure Coast Technical College, and of course the virtual school coming up tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. Fellsmere Dual Enrollment, Dr. Moore, that is a fantastic program. They started in K1, 2, going to 3rd grade next year. Absolutely fantastic. A lot of work, and they're doing a great job. As we've talked about all the athletics and so forth, but Vero Baseball made it to the regional semifinals. They had a record of 20-3, lost 3-1, but they were close in getting to that state. Unified Sports Track and Field, I emailed Dr. Moore today. We really need to get a banner up in our Citrus Bowl or wherever to recognize all of these state teams, and they really are known at the high school Athletic Association as the team to beat in unified sports. the Agnes Peoples Memorial Scholarship, presented them to St. Ed's, Charter High, Vero Beach High School, and Sebastian River High School. Everyone who interviewed received money, and every one of those ladies was prepared for the interview. The Scholarship Foundation that Ms. Berenborg was talking about, all the money that these students do, and I like they do it after, so they know what they've received so far, so it can kind of spread the money out. They do a great job, Camilla Wainwright. The check to Gifford Middle, $50,000 for innovation for STEM, was outstanding. And then I had the opportunity to go to the inclusion show and the awards for the inclusion students at Sebastian River High School. And again, just like Wabasso, just great. The career and tech visits and the community job fair, Ms. Emerson and all of your career and tech people at TCTC, it really was a great opportunity for our students in getting jobs. Again, a thank you to all of our community members for the grants and the wonderful donations. And a very, very special thank you to Ms. Dampierre for all the work that you've done for us these last, 7 years, I believe. And then, of course,
Indian River County.
and then, of course, Ms. Esplin, I know every board member here will say we miss her for all the work she did. So, any other board members, Superintendent?
Sure, yeah. I just wanted to say that the graduations were really a monumental event, and attending them, I think that personally what struck me the most was seeing my friends, close friends, my colleagues, people I worked with, doctors, nurses, other people in the community, seeing their kids walk across the stage. It was really a special moment, and I was surprised that it hit me like it did. It was really a special occasion, and I think as a district, I think we did a fantastic job putting the event on, and obviously we will improve it for next year logistically. And a special thanks to you, Mrs. Dampierre. You will be missed, so thank you for all you've done.
Okay. No other issues or comments? We will adjourn this meeting tonight at 7:59. Thank you for being here.